In the misty air of the Pacific Northwest, where the sound of rain often meets the roar of the ocean, a football dream began to form in the heart of Seattle. The city had longed for a team that could represent its energy, its grit, and its relentless spirit. That dream took shape in 1976, when the Seattle Seahawks were officially born as an NFL expansion team. Few could have imagined that this franchise, starting from scratch, would one day rise to become one of the most passionate and powerful teams in football, backed by one of the loudest fan bases in all of sports. The early years were filled with growing pains, but also with hope. The team played its first season in the Old Kingdom, a concrete fortress that echoed with the sounds of new beginnings. Fans came in droves, not because of victories, but because of belief. They wore blue and green, waved flags, and screamed through every down as though championships were already within reach. The Seahawks may have been new, but their supporters made sure they felt like giants. The first few seasons tested everyone involved. There were moments of brilliance, flashes of what could be, but consistency was still far away. Yet even then, names like Steve Largent began to shine. Largent wasn't just a wide receiver, he was the symbol of perseverance. With sure hands and unbreakable focus, he turned impossible catches into routine plays. His spirit defined the Seahawks, quiet, determined, and fiercely competitive. Under head coach Jack Patera, the Seahawks gradually learned how to fight. They learned how to compete against the best, how to transform from newcomers into contenders. By the early 1980s, something special was brewing. When Chuck Knox arrived as head coach in 1983, a new energy swept through Seattle. Known for his disciplined approach and powerful ground game, Knox brought stability and confidence. That same year, the Seahawks made their first playoff appearance, a defining moment for a young franchise. They shocked the football world by defeating the Denver Broncos and the Miami Dolphins before falling just short in the AFC Championship game. The city erupted with pride. It wasn't just about football anymore, it was about identity. The Seahawks had finally arrived, and Seattle had found its heartbeat. The rest of the 1980s were a mix of highs and lows. The Seahawks built a reputation for toughness and resilience. They weren't the biggest team or the flashiest, but they played with a blue-collar attitude that mirrored their fans. Players like Kurt Warner, Dave Krieg, and Kenny Easley became household names. The Kingdome rocked every Sunday, and the term, 12th man, began to take shape, a symbol of the fans' impact on every game. Opponents would walk into Seattle and immediately feel the noise, the pressure, and the emotion. The fans weren't just spectators, they were participants, shaping outcomes through sheer energy. But as the 1990s arrived, the magic started to fade. The team struggled. After the confetti settled and the cheers of Super Bowl XLVIII began to fade into memory, the city of Seattle stood taller than ever before. The Seahawks were champions of the world, and the 12s, the fans who had lived through every up and down since 1976, finally had their moment of pure triumph. The streets were filled with blue and green, children wore Russell Wilson jerseys to school, and the phrase, "We are 12, became more than a slogan, it became a way of life. Pete Carroll's team had done more than just win a championship, they had changed the culture of Seattle. The city, once overlooked, now stood at the center of the football universe. Every player knew what that title meant. It wasn't just a reward for a great season, it was a validation of years of perseverance and faith. The 2014 season began with the weight of expectation. Defending a Super Bowl title is one of the hardest challenges in sports, and everyone wondered if the Seahawks could do it again. But this team was different. They carried a fire that couldn't be dimmed. The defense, still anchored by the Legion of Boom, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, and Cam Chancellor, continued to terrorize offenses across the league. Marshawn Lynch, the heart of the team's offense, ran with power and purpose, breaking tackles as if he were fueled by pure determination. His beast mode persona became legendary, a symbol of the team's relentless style. Russell Wilson, calm and confident, led the offense with poise beyond his years. He wasn't just a quarterback, he was the conductor of a symphony of chaos and brilliance. Every game in 2014 carried the intensity of a playoff battle. The Seahawks started strong, stumbled mid-season, then roared back with a vengeance. Their bond was stronger than ever, forged by mutual respect and shared goals. Every locker room speech, every practice session, every moment of adversity seemed to pull them closer together. The team's mantra, "Always compete," wasn't just a phrase on a wall, it was the soul of the franchise. By the end of the regular season, Seattle once again stood at the top of the NFC, ready to defend its crown. Then came one of the most unforgettable playoff games in NFL history. In the 2014 NFC Championship, the Seahawks faced the Green Bay Packers in a game that seemed lost. Down by 2 touchdowns late in the fourth quarter, many thought it was over. But in true Seattle fashion, they refused to surrender. Wilson threw interception after interception, but his belief never wavered. With time running out, he orchestrated one of the greatest comebacks ever seen. A fake field goal turned into a touchdown, the defense stiffened, and the crowd, that roaring 12th man, lifted the team with deafening belief. When Wilson threw the game-winning touchdown in overtime, tears streamed down his face as he looked to the sky and thanked God. The Seahawks were going back to the Super Bowl. The story seemed destined for a perfect ending, back-to-back. The trade of Russell Wilson in 2022 sent shockwaves through the football world. For years, Wilson had been the face of the Seattle Seahawks, the leader who brought them a Super Bowl, countless playoff runs, and endless moments of magic. His departure was more than just a roster move, it was the end of an era that had defined a generation of football in the Pacific Northwest. Many experts predicted that Seattle would fall into mediocrity, that the team would struggle to rebuild, and that the glory days were over. But what they didn't understand was that the Seahawks were built on something deeper than a single player. They were built on culture, belief, and the relentless heart of a city that refused to quit. Pete Carroll stood at the center of that storm, calm and confident as ever. He didn't see the Wilson trade as a setback, he saw it as a new beginning. The world may have doubted him, but Carroll had been doubted before. He had been dismissed from the NFL once, rebuilt his reputation at USC, and then turned Seattle into a champion. He knew what resilience looked like, and he believed in his ability to find it again. The Seahawks entered the 2022 season with low expectations and a new starting quarterback, Geno Smith, a veteran who had once been cast aside by the league. Few believed he could lead a team, let alone fill the shoes of Russell Wilson. But Geno believed. He carried himself with quiet confidence, determined to prove that his time had not passed. From the very first game, Seattle reminded the world who they were. In a stunning twist of fate, their season opener was against Wilson and his new team, the Denver Broncos. The energy in Lumen Field that night was electric. The 12s roared with emotion, torn between gratitude and rivalry. Every play felt personal. Geno Smith played with precision and poise, delivering a performance that silenced every critic. When the clock hit 0 and Seattle had beaten Denver, the stadium erupted in pure joy. Geno's words after the game became immortal, "They wrote me off, I ain't right back though." That sentence captured everything about the Seahawks' spirit, doubted, dismissed, but never defeated. That season became one of the most inspiring stories in football. Geno Smith defied all odds, leading the league in completion percentage and earning a Pro Bowl selection. Rookie running back Kenneth Walker III emerged as a rising star, running with the same fire that once defined Marshawn Lynch. Rookie cornerback Tariq Woolen showcased the same kind of swagger and ball-hawking skill that brought back memories of the Legion of Boom. The team played with joy, hunger, and unity, the same ingredients that once made them champions. The Seahawks weren't supposed to make the playoffs, but they did. They weren't supposed to win games, but they did. They weren't supposed to matter again, but they did. Though their playoff run ended earlier than they hoped, the season proved something vital: the Seahawks